Always the less capable, my Aunt Linda sneered, her words cutting through the family barbecue like a blade. At 29, I had heard this dismissal countless times, but that Saturday afternoon would be the last time anyone in my family underestimated Emma Richardson. What my aunt didn't know as she humiliated me in front of 30 relatives was that I was the lead urban planner behind the $2.8 billion downtown revitalization project that would transform our dying city into a model of sustainable development. 6 months later, when the mayor handed me the key to the city on live television, Linda's face went ashen as she realized the less capable niece had just rebuilt the place we all called home. Before I tell you how my greatest professional triumph became my sweetest family vindication, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button. If you've ever been the family member everyone counted out. Have you ever had relatives who made you feel invisible while celebrating everyone else's success? Linda had appointed herself the family judge long before I was old enough to understand the game. Her own daughter, my cousin Jessica, embodied everything Linda valued: a marketing executive with a downtown condo, designer handbags, and a social media presence that screamed success. Every family gathering became Jessica's personal showcase, while my achievements in urban planning and sustainable design were dismissed as government work or idealistic nonsense. When I graduated summa cum laude with my master's in urban planning, Linda's response was a patronizing pat on the head and, "That's nice, dear, but when are you going to get a real job like Jessica?" The defining moment came during my college years when I won a national competition for sustainable city design. My proposal for transforming abandoned industrial areas into mixed-use communities with green spaces had caught the attention of urban planning experts nationwide. I rushed to show Linda the award letter and the $50 USAR prize, thinking surely this would earn some recognition. She glanced at the papers, then immediately pivoted to Jessica's latest promotion at her marketing firm. "Jessica just secured the Miller account," she announced to the room. "Real business, real money, real impact on the economy." My award letter ended up forgotten on the coffee table, later used as a coaster for Linda's wine glass. That night, as I watched the red ring stain my achievement, I made a silent promise. Someday, my work would be impossible to ignore, and Linda would have to acknowledge exactly how capable I truly was. The moment that would change everything happened on a sweltering July afternoon at my cousin Jessica's engagement party. Linda had outdone herself, transforming her backyard into an elegant celebration, complete with string lights, catered appetizers, and a chocolate fountain that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I'd driven 3 hours from the state capital, where I was working on what would become the most significant urban development project in our region's history. But Linda introduced me to guests simply as Emma. She works for the city. The dismissive tone made it clear that in her mind, I was still the family underachiever. The breaking point came when Linda gathered everyone around Jessica to announce her promotion to senior marketing director. The applause was thunderous, the congratulations genuine, and Linda beamed with the pride of a mother whose investment had paid off spectacularly. "Jessica has always been destined for greatness," Linda declared, raising her champagne glass. "Some people are born leaders, born to make a real impact in the world. Others," her eyes found mine across the crowd, "others are meant for smaller things, public service jobs, community work, the less demanding paths." The crowd shifted uncomfortably, but no one challenged her. They never did. What Linda didn't know was that earlier that week, I had received preliminary approval for the downtown revitalization project that would transform 30 square blocks of abandoned warehouses, empty lots, and crumbling infrastructure into a mixed-use community featuring affordable housing, green spaces, retail centers, and sustainable transportation systems. The project would create 15,000 jobs, attract millions in private investment, and serve as a national model for urban renewal. But as I stood there listening to Linda diminish my life's work as less demanding, I realized that telling her would be pointless. She had already decided who I was, and no amount of explanation would change her perception. The final humiliation came when Linda's neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, asked about my work. Before I could respond, Linda jumped in with her usual dismissive summary. "Oh, Emma shuffles papers for City Hall. Nothing too exciting, but it keeps her busy." She turned to Jessica with a radiant smile. "Now, Jessica, tell everyone about your client presentation next week. Real business strategy, real corporate leadership." I excused myself to the bathroom, where I stared at my reflection and made a decision. I wouldn't defend myself anymore. wouldn't try to prove my worth through explanations or arguments. Instead, I would let my work speak for itself, and when the time came, Linda would learn exactly how capable the family disappointment really was. The months following Jessica's engagement party became the most intense period of my professional life. While my family continued their pattern of dismissal and indifference, I was quietly orchestrating the largest urban transformation project in our state's history. The irony wasn't lost on me that Linda's less capable niece was redesigning the very city where our family had lived for 3 generations. But I kept this information to myself, allowing my relatives to maintain their illusions about my modest government job. The project consumed my days and haunted my dreams in the best possible way. I was working with a team of 12 urban planners, environmental engineers, and community development specialists to transform downtown's forgotten district into a thriving mixed-use community. Every morning, I walked through the abandoned warehouse district that would soon house innovative co-working spaces, artist studios, and affordable apartments. Every evening, I refined designs for the Central Park that would feature native plant gardens, community gathering spaces, and sustainable stormwater management systems. This wasn't just urban planning. It was urban resurrection. The complexity of coordinating federal grants, state funding, private investors, and community stakeholders required skills that Linda had never bothered to recognize in me. I was negotiating with construction companies worth hundreds of millions, presenting to city councils and state legislators, and managing environmental impact assessments that would determine the project's viability. The stress was enormous, but so was the satisfaction of seeing abandoned lots transformed into detailed architectural renderings that promised hope and renewal. During this period, family gatherings continued with their predictable dynamics. Linda would showcase Jessica's latest corporate achievements while treating my presence as an afterthought. When relatives asked about my work, Linda's standard response remained unchanged. Emma has a little government job, nothing too exciting. I learned to smile and nod, knowing that every week brought me closer to the moment when this narrative would be shattered forever. The contrast between Linda's perception and my reality was becoming almost amusing. While she dismissed me as a bureaucratic paper pusher, I was finalizing agreements that would reshape our city's skyline and economic future. The breakthrough came in March when we received full federal approval and matching state funds, totaling $8 billion in committed investment. The project would break ground in September, with completion expected within 4 years. That night, I celebrated quietly in my apartment, looking out at the city lights and imagining how different this view would be when my work was complete. I could have called Linda then, could have announced my role in transforming our hometown, but something held me back. The satisfaction would be far greater if the revelation came naturally, publicly, in a way that would leave no room for her to minimize or dismiss my accomplishments. By late spring, the downtown revitalization project had begun generating significant media attention, though my name remained largely behind the scenes in technical reports and planning documents. Local newspapers ran articles about the upcoming transformation, city council meetings drew unprecedented crowds, and property values in the target area began rising in anticipation. Linda, who prided herself on staying informed about local affairs, followed these developments with interest, frequently sharing articles on social media and discussing the project's potential impact at family gatherings. The irony of listening to Linda analyze my own work became a source of dark amusement. "This downtown project could really change everything," she declared at a family dinner in May. "Whoever planned this really knows what they're doing. It's the kind of visionary thinking our city has needed for decades." She turned to Jessica with her characteristic pride. "You should look into the marketing opportunities this might create for your firm. Real estate development, business relocations, community outreach campaigns. This is exactly the kind of high-level strategic thinking that separates successful professionals from ordinary workers." Jessica nodded enthusiastically, already calculating potential client opportunities, while I quietly finished my meal and said nothing. The conversation continued with Linda speculating about the project's leadership team, wondering aloud which prestigious consulting firm had been contracted for such an ambitious undertaking. "It's definitely not local talent," she concluded confidently. "A project this sophisticated requires expertise from major metropolitan areas, probably Seattle or Portland consultants with international experience." The media coverage intensified throughout the summer as groundbreaking approached. The mayor announced plans for a major public ceremony featuring state legislators, federal representatives, and the core planning team that had designed the transformation. Local television stations began promoting the event as a historic moment for our city, promising exclusive interviews with the visionary planners behind the project. Linda shared every article, attended every public information session, and became an unofficial community spokesperson for the development's potential benefits. During the final family gathering before the groundbreaking ceremony, Linda's excitement about the project reached fever pitch. "I've been following this development from the beginning," she told assembled relatives. "It's the most significant thing to happen to our city in 50 years. The planners who designed this are at the absolute top of their field." She paused dramatically, surveying the room. "It really shows you the difference between people who make things happen and people who just participate. Some individuals have the vision and capability to transform entire communities, while others are content with smaller contributions." Her eyes found mine across the table, delivering the familiar message that I belonged firmly in the latter category. In less than a week, that certainty would be obliterated forever. The groundbreaking ceremony took place on a crisp September morning that felt charged with possibility. The abandoned lot that had served as our central staging area was transformed with a temporary stage, media equipment, and seating for nearly 500 community members, officials, and stakeholders. I arrived early, wearing the navy blazer and professional attire that had become my uniform for public appearances, carrying the leather portfolio that contained final project documents and my prepared remarks as lead planner. Linda had secured front-row seating through her connections in local business circles, bringing Jessica and several family members to witness what she believed would be a celebration of anonymous urban planning expertise. I spotted them from backstage, Linda pointing excitedly at the project renderings displayed around the ceremony site, explaining to anyone within earshot how she had followed the development process from its earliest stages. "This is exactly the kind of transformative thinking our community needs," she declared confidently. "World-class urban planning, probably from consultants in major metropolitan areas." Mayor Harrison began the ceremony with remarks about vision, community, and the power of innovative planning to reshape urban landscapes. He thanked federal and state partners, acknowledged private investors, and praised the collaboration that had made this historic project possible. "Today we begin construction on a development that will serve as a national model for sustainable urban renewal," he announced to enthusiastic applause. "But visionary projects require visionary leadership, and I'm honored to introduce the exceptional planning team that transformed an ambitious dream into detailed reality." The moment had arrived. Mayor Harrison's voice carried clearly across the assembled crowd as he began introducing the core planning team. Leading this extraordinary effort, serving as principal urban planner and project coordinator, is someone who has dedicated the past 3 years to reimagining our city's future. Please join me in welcoming Emma Richardson, whose innovative approach to sustainable development and community integration has earned recognition from urban planning organizations nationwide. The applause was thunderous, but all I could focus on was Linda's face as I walked across the stage to accept the microphone from Mayor Harrison. Her expression cycled through confusion, shock, and dawning horror as she realized that the family member she had dismissed as less capable was being celebrated as the visionary architect of our city's transformation. Jessica's mouth fell open, and the relatives who had witnessed years of Linda's condescending commentary sat in stunned silence as the magnitude of her misjudgment became undeniably public. 3 years ago, I began, my voice steady and clear. I stood in this vacant lot and envisioned something different, not just buildings and infrastructure, but a community where families could thrive, where businesses could flourish, and where sustainable design principles could create lasting environmental benefits. The crowd hung on every word as I outlined the project's scope, its innovative features, and its potential for long-term economic impact. From the stage, I could see Linda's face growing paler with each achievement I described, each million-dollar component I had designed, each national recognition I had earned while she dismissed my career as insignificant government work. The aftermath of the groundbreaking ceremony created a seismic shift in family dynamics that would have been unimaginable just hours earlier. As media interviews concluded and dignitaries departed, Linda approached me with an expression I had never seen before. Genuine uncertainty, mixed with reluctant admiration. "Emma," she began hesitantly, "I had no idea about your role in all this, the scope of what you've accomplished." She trailed off, seemingly unable to reconcile the dismissive narrative she had maintained for years with the public recognition I had just received. The conversation that followed was unlike any we had ever shared. For the first time, Linda asked real questions about my work, my education, my professional development, and my future plans. She listened carefully as I explained the technical complexities of sustainable urban design, the political negotiations required to secure funding, and the collaborative process of transforming community needs into architectural reality. "I've been wrong about your career," she admitted finally. "I didn't understand the significance of what urban planners do, or the level of expertise required for a project like this." Jessica, who had remained quietly observant during our conversation, finally spoke up with unexpected humility. "I've been looking at the project materials you've been sharing," she told Linda. "The marketing strategies I thought were so sophisticated are actually pretty basic compared to the community engagement and stakeholder coordination Emma has been managing." It was a small acknowledgement, but it represented a fundamental shift in how family members would view my professional accomplishments going forward. The weeks following the ceremony brought a steady stream of family members reaching out with congratulations, questions, and in some cases, apologies for years of dismissive treatment. The downtown project gained momentum quickly, with construction crews beginning foundation work, while I coordinated ongoing phases of the development. Local and national media continued covering the project's progress, frequently featuring interviews with the planning team and highlighting innovative approaches to sustainable urban development. Linda's transformation was perhaps the most significant change of all. She began following urban planning publications, attending city council meetings, and even volunteering with community organizations focused on sustainable development. "I want to understand what you do," she explained during a lunch meeting several months after the groundbreaking. "I spent so many years misunderstanding your work and dismissing its importance. I'd like to learn enough to actually appreciate what you've accomplished." 6 months later, as I stood in the same lot where the groundbreaking ceremony had taken place, watching the first residential building take shape against the skyline, I reflected on the journey from family outcast to recognized expert. The construction site buzzed with activity, concrete foundations rising toward what would become affordable apartments with rooftop gardens, community spaces designed for multi-generational interaction, and retail areas that would support local entrepreneurship. This physical transformation mirrored the personal changes that had reshaped my relationship with family members, who finally understood the difference between surface-level success and meaningful impact. The most satisfying aspect of this vindication wasn't Linda's acknowledgement or the family's newfound respect, though both were gratifying. The real victory was the realization that external validation, while pleasant, was ultimately secondary to the internal satisfaction of meaningful work well done. The downtown revitalization project would improve thousands of lives, create lasting economic opportunities, and serve as a model for sustainable development in similar communities nationwide. That impact existed independently of family recognition or professional accolades. Today, as the project nears completion and attracts visitors from urban planning programs across the country, I still think about that July afternoon when Linda called me less capable in front of the entire family. Her words had stung then, but they had also crystallized my determination to let results speak louder than arguments. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't confrontation or dramatic revelation. It's the quiet satisfaction of building something so undeniably significant that dismissal becomes impossible. Have you ever been underestimated by family members who couldn't see your true potential? How did you handle the moment when your achievements finally became impossible to ignore? Share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this story of family vindication resonated with your own journey. Sometimes the people who doubt us the most end up witnessing our greatest triumphs, and those moments of recognition can be sweeter than any revenge we could have planned.